Hello, everyone. This is Allison from Allison Knows. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today. It's April 10th, and I am going to run through a couple things. Just wanted to get everything started, hopefully get on to a actual schedule that is going to work for me. Wanted to say shout out to my allies, shout out to my know-it-alls. I would appreciate if you would support the channel by subscribing, by sharing, by liking. I am still under 1,000 subscribers. This is truly a newly start to what I want to do. I have been called, if you will, to give you an idea of kind of how we're going to do this show, or well, I am going to do this show. We're going to have, sometimes we're going to have some ICUs, which is Intelligent Conversations Unfiltered. Sometimes we're going to tap on over to the Allison Knows podcast, and you'll see one of two kinds of podcasts. You're going to either listen to the what I call the B team, which is Jack and Jill, and they will either compare, contrast some books or reading material or sources that they are interested in, or you will hear them actually have a discussion on certain topics, subjects, points of view, current events, political things. Sometimes I will use my tarot cards, and here you are, right in there. Let's see if I can get a better picture of them. There you are. That's some of my tarot cards. I sometimes use true crime cards to basically get a sense of what my energy is, or whatever energy is coming through to me. It's a combination of intuitive insight as well as common sense assessments. That is a part of what we do. And in addition to that, we also may or may not interview others that we find interesting, intriguing, and informative. Or we may do, for example, what I call the gloves off edition. And we're going to do a little bit of that today, also tied in with a little bit of the, excuse me, of the need to see what's going on, and just curious to know if others are even aware of what's going on. So what I want to talk about is basically pulling back the curtain on what courage looks like when it crashes headfirst into cowardice, especially in American politics. Now, I may, to a certain extent, adapt a certain cavalier response attitude to certain things. Whether you like it or not, I don't care. Whether you care about it or not, don't watch, don't even subscribe if it offends your personal beliefs. Still, we are in a space or a place that we're able to exercise our personal rights. Now, what I've always felt, believed, and thought is when someone, for example, let's use this analogy. When someone is offended by a comment or a statement made at the, say, corporate water cooler, if you will, and the information goes over to the Human Resources Department, and you have one person that is offended by one thing, and that becomes the default switch that everyone else has to adhere to, then I have a problem with that. Because I think the flip should also be something that happens with others that are interested just as much as it relates to the feelings of someone else. All that being said, to say this part, let's take, for example, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from Texas. Now, she has finally lit a fuse under the GOP because of their latest retreat from the democracy process itself, their cowardice behavior as to dealing with their constituents. Now, you've seen the headlines. Republicans, members of Congress instructed by their own party leadership to cancel town halls, not to fix the problems, not even to listen, just disappear. No accountability, no answers, just a vacuum where democracy used to be. And in that vacuum, a raw, unsparing truth. The GOP isn't running from their constituents. They're running from the constituents of their own actions. So Congresswoman Crockett didn't mince words. She says this, cowardly she called it, laughable even, in a country that bills itself as a democratic republic. Because here's the thing, when you refuse to face the people you swore to serve, you're not just dodging tough questions. You're admitting your agenda can't survive sunlight, Medicaid cuts, food stamp slashes, veterans left twisting in the wind. Don't get me started on veterans, because I am a U.S. Army veteran, and I am watching what is going on in the blood red state that I live in. She goes on to say, they know their policies are nightmares wrapped in red tape, and nightmares dissolve in the light of day. Now that's true, but she doesn't just name the rot that's going here. She also comes with a blueprint. So here's what she says. Where they won't go, we go. Democrats, she argued, must step into the breach, into red districts, rural towns, places where MAGA myths have festered unchallenged. She has done it herself, and she paints a picture. She says, picture a black Democratic congresswoman from Texas rolling up to Waco, a Trump stronghold, hosting listening sessions, driving tractors, dismantling Fox News caricatures, one handshake at a time. You're not the devil I thought you were, one attendee told her. Imagine that. Humanity is a radical act. So one of the things that I've noticed that some Republicans are trying to do is they're trying to play the scapegoat tactic. It's a playbook. And basically, who's going to be cashing those checks? So let's get something entirely straight. The GOP's entire playbook hinges on a lie. A lie that blames trans folks, immigrants, black women, anyone with the non-billionaire status, if you will, and who is not a defense contractor, who's not one of the people that's literally feasting at the trough of their policies. So one thing that I agree with Jasmine Crockett with, and she eviscerates the GOP with this in a surgical precision way. It's not trans people shutting down our rural offices. It's not even immigrants inflating your grocery store bills. It's not a black woman gutting student loans. So you need to ask better question. Who is cutting student loans? Who is gutting our government as we know it? Why are they doing it? What's the benefit to them? Who benefits from it? Who prospers from it? And the tactic is really simple. Follow the money, follow the contracts. SpaceX, Tesla, Starlink, bloated defense deals line the pockets of the same oligarchs who bankrolled Donald Trump. Now, I'm not going to deviate too much from it. I'm going to focus on just this right now, and then we're going to have some follow-up episodes that focus on the regime's leader, which is Donald Trump, which I call Krasnov. He has been, will always be the puppet of Russia. Now, I can tell you what I feel and see intuitively, what I do feel and see psychically. I could share that if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. But I will tell you this part. The chickens are coming home to roost. If you sit up and sit back and pay attention, you will see what's going on around you, because it is very, very hard. It's very, very hard to smother this truth from coming out, because it's past time, it's beyond due, and it's supposed to happen. So get back to it. So we follow the money, right? And we know who bankrolled his election. And to be honest with you, we also know that he didn't win this election, but that's another conversation for another time. Meanwhile, 70 million Americans who are on Medicaid, these people are holding their breaths. Why? Because the billionaire, the multi-billionaire, petulant individual that is sitting there, that is literally like a parasite sucking the life out of these people's just desserts. These are things that they have paid money into. This is their entitlement. So now you are literally taking money from people that have actually put in the procedural things that they need to have in to protect their very own retirement and healthcare benefits. And you are literally raping and pillaging, because that's what it is. So 40 million people that are on food stamp rations. Now, if you want to divide that and actually drill down to see what they are, how many of those people have my coloring? How many of those people that are on food stamps have my coloring? When you find that number out, go ahead and hit me up in the comments on there and tell me what you find out, if you care to do that. The GOP's response to all of that? Silence. Crickets are louder than that. A silence so deafening, it's a confession. Okay? But Jasmine Crockett's message isn't just about exposing the grift. In other words, the theft, the steal, the taking of, the raping and pillaging. That's what grift means. It's about showing up, not with poll-tested slogans, but with unvarnished truth. We need to start talking to each other so that we can understand what the conversation is truly about. And the conversation is truly about the fact that you are sitting here as a middle to lower income individual, regardless of what their ethnicity is. In other words, regardless of what the color of your skin is, or where you come from, or where your originating factors are in your heritage genealogy, regardless of where you come from. You're sitting here sending $25 a month to a man that claims he's a billionaire, but he's still willing to take your money, and he's willing to charge you for that, and you are willing to pay for that. Now, what does that make you? Now, if you can't be honest with yourself, then you are deserving of everything that is happening to you. But if you find your balls or find your left tits and you realize, oh, this is crap that I need to take care of, then okay, now you're finally getting your crap together. Now, what do you do? Okay? Well, what you do is you need to show up. It's not just standing there and complaining. Now, when she goes and she sees farmers and she says, I may not grow your food, she tells farmers, but I sure as hell eat it. She talks about SNAP benefits as a national security. Rural hospitals are closing as zip codes, death sentences. This isn't political, it's survival. Survival doesn't care about party lines. Survival doesn't care whether you are straight, gay, trans, rich, poor, black or white, Asian or Indian, or anything else in between. The first rule of being a human being is survival. That's the first rule. The second rule is to love thy neighbor. Now, if you are a Christian, if you are a religious person, if you're a Bible thumper, you cannot in clear conscience say that God said do this but not this. In the Bible there is this but there's not this. Let me tell you something about the Bible. The Bible is the best checklister of what you need to do to follow to become a better human being. But we need to remember something that is undisputed facts. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Let me say that again for you. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. God made us in His image. Now, if you think that God is only focused on two genders, then boy, have you limited His omnipresent self. Have you just given God a limit? Wow, that's bold of you to do. That's another conversation. So we go back to here. So Jasmine Crockett challenged something that I have long championed, the power of authenticity in a world starved for it. You can't out-Trump Trump, Crockett admits, but you can outwork him. You can out-human him. While Republicans hide, Democrats and independents must speak not in bureaucratic jargon, but in the language of the lived experience. Jasmine Crockett knows this firsthand because she used to be a former criminal defense attorney, and she faced down killers, and she actually faced down MAGA bullies alike. She has mastered the art of cutting through the noise. If they sense weakness, they'll pounce, she says, so don't blink. Now, that bit of advice is something that we all need to take with us and take it to bed and wake up with it, tomorrow morning. Why is that? Because if you do that, you are about to see exactly where your strength lies and where your will and your power begins. So, the lesson here is while the good old party, the Republicans, the Trumplicans, the triple Trumpers, the GOP cowers, Democrats and independents have a choice. Retreat into your safe districts and milliquote toast messaging, or flood the zone with the truth. Use their tactics against them. Build a rapport, show up, let them see the receipts. Weekly emails to constituents, teletown halls with thousands, office hours in communities written off as lost. It's not just politics, it's disruption. A rebellion against the idea that empathy is a liability. Now, I have a phrase that I've said that my wife looks at me and she rolls her eyes about it, but it's the truth. And that statement is, until it becomes personal, that's the only time it becomes relevant. So, let me tell you how personal it is for me. I'm an immigrant. I am female with an African descent. I'm married to a white woman. I am a business owner. I'm a United States veteran. And most times, my triple-digit IQ is usually the highest in the room. Now, why am I saying all those things? I'm saying all those things to say this right now. Quite frankly, if I do nothing, I'll be fine, both financially, spiritually, emotionally, ethically, physically, and any other leads that you can come up with. I will be fine. So will my family, and so will those closest to me. However, that is not how I function. If you look at someone that is an immigrant that comes to this country, that becomes an American citizen, that becomes someone that is a part of this establishment willingly, you need to look at it as someone that has adopted a new homeland. So it's literally a tactical decision, a want to be here. How is that different from someone that is born here? It's different from someone that is born here by one simple thing: the oath that we take when we get sworn in for our citizenship. Anyone that is a naturalized citizen, and because measurements matter to Thumper, what you need to realize is that my penis size is bigger because why? Not only did I sign up to be an American citizen by swearing my allegiance to the Constitution of this land, I did it again when I joined the Army. I swear my allegiance to the United States of America, to defend it against domestic and international threat. In essence, that's what it is. And I will say this to you. No American born in this country, unless they join a civil service or unless they join the military, will ever utter those words. And I think that's the problem. I think two problems that we have that we can actually correct when the Constitution gets rewritten, which again is going to have to be another episode that we are going to get into, and I will give you the receipts on that as well. What you need to realize is the United States of America 248 years ago became the United States of America in 1776 after a bloody revolution. We are in those same spot again 248 years later with our own version of the Mad King. And what is fascinating about that is when someone tells you to pay attention to that, you're going to have to understand what your history is. Now, when you look upon everything else and you realize why they are shutting down the Department of Education? Why are they restricting the books that you read? Why are they restricting the press from being able to freely speak about and say about what they want to share with the public as well as the international public? The reasoning behind that is because when you restrict people from having a freedom of thought, when you restrict people from being able to access documentation that proves that thought, you begin to control them. Well, what do you do in order to remove the shackles of that control? Then you need to pay attention to the black people. Why? Because 400 years of slavery taught us something. That when you become better educated, that when you become better vocal, that when you become obsessed with the place of being the obstructionistic individual that you're capable of, because again, you're built in God's image, and he teaches you how to resist. How do I know? 40 days and 40 nights will tell you exactly how the resistance is. So if you want to go about taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, and by extension, taking care of your community, you can continue to follow me here. I appreciate it. I thank you. You can continue to support me here. I appreciate it, and I thank you. But you need to also, in my comments, you let me know if you want to have a conversation with me, if you want me to put you on alongside with me, and we can talk about points, we can talk about things. But you must also realize that in order for our alignment in what we believe or disbelieve, in order for us to make a conversation about what we will and will not agree on or don't agree on, we have to make time for that to happen. So the other thing I will say in closing is the GOP's town hall exodus isn't just cowardice. It is a confession that their vision for America can't withstand the scrutiny of the people they're sworn to serve. But in that void, Jasmine Crockett sees something else, an opening, a chance to redefine patriotism not as performative rage, but as showing up, as looking your neighbor in the eye and saying, your pain isn't a talking point, and it isn't. It's a policy failure, and I am here to fix it. This, folks, is how nightmares end. Not by screaming into the void, not by filling it with lies, rage, and anger, but by shining the light with truth, with the kind of relentless gloves off empathy that turns MAGA myths into dust. The GAP may be running, but as Jasmine Crockett has proven, the future isn't. And you know what? Quite frankly, neither are we. So find us on ICU, Intelligent Conversations Unfiltered, or find me on the Allison Knows podcast. Become an ally. Become a know-it-all, be a voracious reader. And in the description, I'm going to include my first ebook that I've ever done. It's called The Evolution of a Lie. Learn something. I want you to read it, and I want you to give me questions. I do. I want you to go ahead and do that. Because why? We're going to start chiseling away and rebuilding this. And I'm going to give you some predictions down the road. And I want you to sit down and I want you to write them out. Because I want you to sit down and I want you to say and get tired of saying, oh, hell, she was right. Check. Because I clearly see what's going to happen. And right now, we are going to be feeling the pain. Because the pain gives pressure, and pressure forms diamonds. And let me tell you, what you need to focus on is you need to focus on why we got the pain in the first place. Because this is where we learn, this is where we are taught, this is where we understand, and this is what makes us who we are. So, thank you for your time. Thank you for looking at the Intelligent Conversations Unfiltered new form podcast. And, well, show, I would say. I won't even really say a podcast. I'll call it a video show. And go ahead and sign up with us over at the Allison Knows podcast, because yeah, that's my baby. I like that. And stay tuned for some segments and episodes of things like, for example, Stacy shares, and she will be connecting with people that are like her, which are seizure survivors or seizure disorder individuals. And go ahead and let us know what you think, feel, and believe by hitting us up with a comment. And if you feel kind of generous, then go ahead and hit up my Cash App, which is at the bottom left of the screen or bottom right, depending on how it flips out. And I will talk to you again. Have a good day. Stay well. Be good to each other. Keep your head down and pay attention to the truth as it is. And as much as it's going to hurt, understand that we have to go through this to become better human beings. And empathy is the key. Empathy is the light that shines. And I'll see you again. Be well. Take care. Bye, y'all.